Coming to you from the depths of the galaxy, bringing you hot takes, hot news, and spicy discussions about games. We are the Uneducated Gamers! This episode is brought to you by GalaxyGameTV.com and Shipping Shield, creator of the cardboard top loader alternative, environmentally safe shipping card protection made in the USA. Go to shippingshieldus.com for more details.
What's up, gamers? We are back with the Uneducated Gamers Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Michael.
And today we got a very, very spicy episode today to talk fun. Well, is it really that fun?
No, it is not.
I mean, the rising cost of things, electronics starting to look deep into our pockets for money to say, give me more, give me more.
You know how much I love spending money. It's my favorite. I am not a cheap-ass tightwad.
I mean, isn't everyone? He
says with Magic the Gathering and Warhammer models in the background.
Yeah, right. If you guessed it, we are talking about the ever so massive, crazy topic of rising RAM costs, which is impacting just about everything in the world. And
hooray for DRAM shortages and consolidated silicon manufacturing.
Yeah, and AI out of control with the whole need for RAM, right? I mean, just the fact that what we're recording on right now uses AI tools, we are causing the rise of RAM prices doing what we're doing.
This is my fault specifically.
It is.
I've done this. I can't believe I've done this.
Yeah. It is your fault, Michael.
You ever seen the memes that's like, this is why your electricity bill has doubled, and it's like an AI-generated cat like playing the flute or whatever?
Oh. So, all right, let's just get right into it because I think there's going to be some hot debate here. There's going to be some hot kind of takes that I really want to get through and not take 6 hours. So
I'm gonna do a mini prediction, be like, nah, there's not gonna be any hot takes here. We're gonna be largely on the same page.
I don't know, man. This whole all right, let's start from the beginning because I think it really is important to start with the setup for us to kind of really get into sort of the root of a lot of different things, right? And so as we've seen, we've seen so many videos and different people and different articles talking about it. We got all these different channels talking about it. Like, RAM is getting absolutely stupid crazy, and we're talking about in a lot of cases double the price of what it was just last year, right? And we could talk about it being tariffs, we can talk about it being inflation, but really AI is driving a lot of the reasons for the RAM prices of going up. I mean, unless Mike, is there anything else that I think any of us are missing that you think could be causing?
I think I mean AI is spearheading it, at least right now in this exact moment. AI is definitely the spearhead. I think there's definitely like a Spice 8 rack PhD thesis level discussion to be had about all the geopolitical factors that are going into it. Genuinely though, it's a lot, but tariffs is part of it. The world geopolitical place where economies don't trust each other anymore is part of it. The fact that 90% of the silicon in the world is manufactured in Taiwan is part of it. There's a lot going on. This particular hike in the last month or so is definitely because AI data centers are greedy.
So if you had to put a number on it, right? Let's talk seriously for one moment around the percentage of the cost that is of the rising. What would you say at a percentage scale, your perspective?
I would just like to disclaim that I do not have a PhD in social science or economics or politics.
I mean, do we have to qualify that with the name of the podcast?
No, you're right. We are not, in fact, Spice 8 Rack. We are the uneducated gamers. So, 20%.
20% contributed to AI.
Yes, I think. Oh no, maybe 50%. I wouldn't go any higher than 50. I think that there's too many other factors going on, and AI is the biggest one, at least the most obvious one right now. I'd say 50% is AI.
I would agree. I think it would be at least 50%. I do believe, again, to your point, where some of these chips are made and the import cost that comes along with that. I definitely don't want to get into the political side. This is not what this podcast is about, but I do think there are some of those economic factors that do go into that, right? And I mean, just the fact of the difference in inflation today compared to even 2 years ago, I definitely believe takes a huge role in that. And I think that's one piece that I think some of those so quote unquote experts around, the RAM industry, I think conflate a little bit and don't really talk about that component too much of it playing a role in the cost change of RAM. But I do think that AI is certainly at that 50% clip. But I guess the question that lies with me is, why wouldn't chip makers look to increase production to go to that demand, as opposed to the inflationary cost of RAM it is? Because the reports is none of these chip makers are going to increase production in 2026 or in the future.
I do not have a PhD in economics and finance, but a lot of it, I do have some experience working in manufacturing, at least as an engineer, and I can say probably with confidence that it does just have to do with worry about overproduction. I think it's pretty obvious that AI has been in a bubble. I think it's pretty obvious that this is not financial advice, that this current spike in DRAM usage is probably not going to continue over the long term, and they just don't want to be stuck with overstock. I think that's exactly what that LTT video we were watching said as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, but I guess, and I think about supply and demand, and well, we've talked about it in the past for things like Magic, right, or other things, right? Like supply and demand really change over time, and if there are trends that the demand is high, oftentimes you will increase a certain percentage. It's not generally a tremendous amount, but you would usually trickle up maybe, a 5-10% increase to account for that, to, again, average the market out, right? Because market conditions remain an important and volatile part of consumerism when it comes to buying things and businesses being able to sell them.
And I think they've done that. Look at Nvidia and Micron as the examples where they have decided to pull out of the consumer production market, at least in the time being, and rather reallocate those resources to supplying to the big AI boom, where people are just paying money hand over foot for parts.
Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of Nvidia, and this is not directly to the RAM related conversation, but it's actually very similar, just a quick offshoot. Did you hear, and again, this is breaking news as of the last 24 48 hours, Nvidia is re-releasing the 3060 cards?
I'm not surprised. 3060 was a great card. From what I stand, there's only marginal improvements for 40 and 50 series, and they'd much rather take those newer parts and give them to Microsoft.
So I guess my question to you, and based on thinking of manufacturing, because if I'm not mistaken, the 3060 cards used lower chipsets.
Yeah, it would be, obviously it's going to use an older SKU or an older generation than the 50 series. But I don't think it's remarkably old.
But I guess so kind of to bring that back really quick. So Nvidia remaking the 3060 card, right? That's, I mean, to me, that seems like a potentially a business move cost-saving measure to use some of these older chipsets that, really probably don't cost as much as some of the newer chipsets.
Yeah. Well, and think about it this way too. I'm running a 3060 Ti in my machine right now. It's a great card, and especially now that they're 2 generations later, it's probably relatively affordable for the average consumer. So for the amount of product that they're willing to put out for consumer purchase right now versus enterprise purchase, it makes sense to give them something they can afford. They have to compete with, for example, the Intel GPUs that are out there now that are like ridiculously underpriced for their power compared to the rest of the market.
So to bring us back forward to the RAM conversation, and actually you brought that up here, enterprise versus commercial sale, right? So for the audience, right, commercial sale is consumers, right? Us, me, you, anybody who can just go buy something off the shelf. Enterprise is usually where you can buy bulk through, business deals with that manufacturer or supplier of those parts.
IT departments, data centers, et cetera, et cetera.
So one of the things, though, that is driving this ridiculous cost change is really these people are buying them off the consumer shelves, not directly from the manufacturer, not from an enterprise standpoint, which is very odd and very strange. Now, and what I mean by that is these are not enterprise solutions that most organizations are buying these chips for. It's, whether it's small business or somebody at home doing a bunch of stuff, like AI is getting crazy for a lot of people from a RAM usage standpoint. So I think there's 2 factors here, right? The dual factor is there's the enterprise level AI that is being used and being applied to, but then the largest spike that is being reported is on the consumer side, and that is what's really driving the price, because the demand is so high on the consumer side of it and the supply is lower because everybody's buying it. You then have less on the shelves for someone to buy.
Yeah, I'm not 100% following what you're saying as far as the demand, because the what it comes down to is DRAM chips, like the actual like black box that's being soldered onto your board. Those are being allocated to AI processing machines rather than manufacturing more off the shelf RAM that you or I would buy from like Amazon, off a PC part picker or whatever.
True. Where I was going there was, yes, that's the enterprise side of it, right? That's, manufacturers and those kinds of departments. But the consumer spike on the actual chips, like not the chips, but the sticks, the memory sticks, right?
Gotcha.
Those are skyrocketing as well, and primarily because it's not the enterprise side that's driving that cost change. It's actually the fact that small businesses and consumers are buying more RAM for consumer use and grade AI like servers in their home.
Maybe.
Does that make sense?
I mean, there might just be people buying it up because there's a shortage, right? It's just like toilet paper during the pandemic, right? People just buy shit.
I just got some DDR4 RAM in my bathroom.
Charmin brand DDR5. But the other part of it, when did DDR5 officially release? It wasn't that long ago, was it?
I would say it would be within the last 2 years.
DDR5 SD RAM was officially released on July 14, 2020. Oh, so it's been out. DDR5 as a RAM generation has been out for a while. I don't know if I've seen it be as popular in consumers until the last couple of years, though. And I wonder if that's part of it. Like, people are like starting to like, oh, I would like to go from DDR4, maybe even DDR3 RAM sticks to DDR5. Suddenly, though, there's a shortage, so now everyone's panicking.
But I mean, I know many people who have been dabbling with AI at home, and they're building their own LLMs like within servers. Like, a lot of that has gone up, right? Like, consumers actually doing that kind of stuff, right?
Especially with what's the open sourced Chinese project where you can run your own. I'm blanking. It's like is it DeepSeek?
That sounds
like
familiar.
it's
That sounds
DeepSeek that's
familiar.
open source.
Yeah.
It was like a Chinese project that
Yeah.
they said, Americans, we
Yeah.
can make this cheaper and faster, and they did it. And you
Yeah.
can actually run them at home with relatively like decent hardware. So that may be part of it, but I would expect that to drive GPU card purchases rather than RAM specifically. Although they can go hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them need the core processing from the front end part of it, and as opposed to a GPU processing, right? So it needs more, I mean, I don't know. I personally have not looked into doing it, or I don't have any like background in doing it, but I am aware of folks doing that at home. But
I'm pretty sure it has more to do with GPU. I again, don't quote me. I am a professional engineer, but I haven't worked a lot with AI. But I thought AI and other neural network work is largely GPU based, just to help parallelize the processing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So with that said, though, right? And when we think about the rising cost of RAM, and really also many different electronic components that go within either a computer or a console or whatever, one of the things that I've been thinking about, what I wanted to talk to you about was, could this actually put the next generation of consoles at risk of potentially coming in the next few years like originally projected? Because
absolutely.
I mean, like this could be a big problem.
Absolutely. Just look at the Steam Machine 2 that recently came out, where I don't remember what launch price it was, but I think people were talking about for a long time that they weren't going to want to pay the price. And in fact, I don't know if it's even actually released yet.
No, you're talking about the Steam box, the new Steam, like the Cube? Yeah, so we don't have prices for that yet.
We don't have prices. They've been holding back that information, but people have been talking about it because they're like, ooh, because Valve said this isn't going to be console price, this is going to be low end PC price, so just prepare yourself for that. And everyone's like, oh god. And then RAM prices went up, and they're like, how much is the Steam Machine 2 going to actually be?
Now I'll say there's been a slight leak here about a potential price that, and some nifty coders found in a foreign website found a listing for the Steam Cube, right? And basically the translated cost to USD for the foreign currency that they had it listed for was close to $900 for the one terabyte system, and about $1,100 for the 2 terabyte system.
That's a lot.
And that's that again. This is not obviously confirmed. These can all be placeholder prices within their system. But some nifty sleuths kind of sniffed that one out a little bit, and again, that just happened within the last 48 hours as well.
Yeah. Now, again, Valve is trying to make a compact PC, right? They're not trying to make an Xbox competitor. They're trying to make like an Intel Nook style machine, but like with actual like good gaming hardware in it.
Yeah.
Which is different. But you're also absolutely right in that if prices are going to be high between now and the next few months, that's probably going to affect manufacturing for consoles, because they have to get those SKUs. They have to purchase wholesale those SKUs well ahead of time before manufacturing starts. And so if everything is like artificially high right now, they're going to wait to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this also then begs the question, right? Is, does this extend the current generation of consoles? Like usually our console generations are, they run anywhere between a 6 to a 10-year clip, right? Like, are we looking now? And actually, I have a different question on this after that you answer this one. But like, is this a 12 to 13-year console generation because of this, and maybe some other factors as well? But I do feel like this definitely puts a pretty big like punch in the face to console makers, not just the big ones like Xbox, Microsoft, and Nintendo and such, but I'm talking even those other like third party companies like Ioneo and Rogue and ROG, like the ROG Ally, Lenovo, any of these that make these PC handhelds, like dude, we might be in a world of hurt for a while. Of what we got is what we got.
Yeah. Well, and let me answer that question with another question. Where is there to go with a next generation of consoles?
Well,
I know from the PC side, we talk about going from DDR4 RAM to DDR5. We talking about upgrading our GPUs to 50 series, but like, I think the consumer consensus kind of seems to be, at least on the PC side, that the last, at least in GPUs, maybe in RAM, although DDR5 has some genuine improvements, but I know for GPUs specifically, you can get a 3060 Ti and still be good for the next 10 years. And it's kind of not worth the money to upgrade to a 40 or 50 series, at least right now, and probably hasn't been in a while. So I'm thinking about that for consoles. The Xbox is already, what, $700? I don't know what the PS5 is. What is the purpose of doing the next generation of those? Are we just going to have marginal increases in performance?
I mean, I think that's a great question, and that kind of leads me into other questions as well. But I mean, to really kind of get down to it, like I don't know, like I don't know what else I would be looking for in a console. I mean, look, I own the Xbox Series X, right, and I own the PS5, and I have the Switch 2, right. So I have all three like major consoles these days. Plus, I have a first gen ROG Ally X, right, and like I looked at when the ROG Ally, so the ROG Xbox Ally X came out. Sorry, I had to talk through that one in my mind before I actually said the words. But when that came out, like I told you, I debated. I was like, do I want to upgrade? Do I need to upgrade? Yes. Does the battery life stink on that one? Absolutely. But I guess the question is, I looked at myself and I said, well, I don't actually go and I don't use that on the go in a way that would say I don't have access to a plug. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I don't mind plugging in. I don't care. In fact, when it's plugged in, you get better performance when it's plugged in than when it's not. And I'm always looking for that better performance when I'm gaming, right?
Yep.
So
no, I don't want to dig too deep into necessarily like console generation upgrading. We've got another episode we got to film for that.
Yeah.
But I want to bring it up because price, the focus on this episode is price, and price matters in that decision, right? From the consumer side, people were already not happy with how expensive this generation of consoles were.
Agreed.
And so if the prices is really high and people are holding off because they can't afford it or don't think that the value's there, and companies are now holding off because parts are more expensive, and they know that if all they can deliver is a marginal performance, people didn't want to buy now, they're definitely not going to want to buy that. Just the combination of price on both the producer and the consumer side is definitely going to push the generation out.
I would agree. And like, the other part of this whole conversation, right, is the fate of the next generation of consoles. Like, does this dictate the next generation of consoles? And I actually think it does. In fact, I think this generation is also dictating from a cost value perspective of performance versus what that next generation can bring. I don't even know if we've seen the peak of the current generation of performance, meaning what we're getting out of the industry from a gaming perspective, of the type of game, the quality of games. I don't think we've gotten there yet. And
no,
so
I would agree with that.
I mean, I think it took us with PlayStation 3, I don't even think we ever met. I mean, if you think about it, PS4 games are still being produced today.
Yeah. Have they even made games for the PS5 yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, the question here is that we are still overlapped with the prior generation and the current generation of games being produced. PS4 games are still being produced. Xbox One games in some cases are still being produced. Switch One games are still being produced, even though their perspective next generation already exists. Why is that? This is the first time I think we've seen this long of a tail of both generations overlap. As part of that, the fate of the next generation of consoles, I think, solely doesn't rely on RAM costs in a way that we've been talking about. However, I do think this will make console manufacturers take a pause and say, maybe not right now.
Yeah, because it is a major expense, and it's not with the AI boom, the DRAM is hugely shorted right now, but graphics cards, graphic processing has been getting more and more expensive too, as AI has become more and more prevalent until that bubble pops. So I'm sure console makers don't want to release a $900, $1,000 Xbox till I bought the Xbox LIX.
But it's also a PC. But we'll get to that.
Yep.
But we'll get to that. So, okay, to cap this off, right? If we're saying that the fate of next gen consoles is at risk here, right? So
I'm gonna caveat that. I don't think it's at risk. I think they're going to make the next gen console. I think that deadline is getting pushed back.
Right. So so hear me out, right? Like, so the fate of next gen consoles can be delayed a few years, right? Today, the projection of the next PS5, we'll use the PS5 as our gauge, right? Is a 2027, 2028 release date, right? So if we had to draw a circle around a month and a year on how far out this goes, are we saying this is a 2030 like push out to the next generation, or what are you thinking? Like, is this
what year did this generation release again?
PS5, we are 6 years in, I think. Let me check, because it started during COVID, right?
Yeah.
So the PS5, yeah, we're 5 years in, November of 2020. So they're expecting 7 to 8 year swing in generation. So basically that puts us 27, 28. But are we
2030 sounds right. I think it depends too how quickly the AI bubble pops, and it will pop.
Will it though?
Yeah, AI is a lot of smoke that a lot of business people are blowing up each other's asses.
How? Okay.
It's just like the .com bubble, right? There's a lot of garbage out there that is basically just repackaging the same project and trying to sell it to people.
But okay, when did the Bitcoin thing all start? So that started in 2009, right?
Bitcoin blew up in the pandemic because people were like using it to gamble their way to a better life.
But it also started in 2009, right? Like that's where
that far back?
Yes, yeah. That was starting with CPU mining, though. That all started with CPU mining, remember? And then people caught on to
2009 was my freshman year of high school, and I didn't have real access to the internet at that time. So you're good. This is gonna be on you, bud.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So it wasn't until 2011 is when GPU mining rigs really took off. And really in 2013 is when full arrays kind of became the rate. And that's when we saw the massive change in the GPU sort of, the GPU boon, right? So if we think of that, it's 2026 right now. 13 years, it started slowing down. The cost started coming down, about 4 years ago? So we're talking almost a decade of Bitcoin really driving the cost of GPUs. You don't think that the AI bubble is you think the AI bubble is going to be last much less than the Bitcoin boom?
Yeah, so I do not have a PhD in finance or economics. One other thing about the AI thing that I think makes it more doomed than the Bitcoin bubble, and I kind of think the Bitcoin bubble has popped by this point, or at least from the consumer side. AI is extremely costly to to run, like at an enterprise scale. More so even than Bitcoin. I know Bitcoin mining costs a lot of electricity, but AI is like that on steroids. And it costs, they're building these AI data centers. They cost a huge amount of power, a huge amount of upfront cost to buy parts, and the huge amount of water to cool them. It's just really expensive, and I don't think that anyone... I think the cost of AI being free for most people is something that is not going to last. I think that's a big example of these companies trying to undercut each other on price to gain customers before they ramp up the cost. And I think once that happens, they have to recoup their cost at some point, and that's going to be the first part of the downfall. I think is when people finally have to pay what it actually costs to access these tools. And Bitcoin doesn't really have that same problem. Okay,
so then final prediction. Then we already predicted next gen consoles going to be delayed probably a few years, right? 2030 sounds about right? AI bubble. What year? If you had a circle, year and a month. Now maybe just a year. Doesn't matter a month.
The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. I have no idea when it's gonna pop, but I know it's coming. The other part, and Bitcoin really hasn't seen this much either yet, is regulatory crackdowns. There's a lot of sketchy stuff involved in training these AI models that our current administration doesn't want to touch. But 3 years from now, if we get a new administration, there may be some different things brought to light that help pop that bubble as well, and we have no idea what's going to happen around that.
Fair enough. I think the AI sort of train is going to go on a heater for probably the next 3 to 5 years.
I think that's a fair estimation.
And which would then put us in that same range of 2030.
I think the PS6 comes out when the AI bubble pops.
Thanks for listening to our most recent episode of Uneducated Gamers. You can go to Galaxy Game TV to post comments on each of our episodes, or if you have a question or a topic you would like us to include in an episode, feel free to leave a comment. Until next week, we bid you farewell.